working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Judith Imera, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. And now to the news. A 29-year-old Filipino woman in Hong Kong has tested positive for the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19, the Department of Foreign Affairs or TFA said on Thursday. In a statement, the TFA said the Hong Kong Health Department has informed the Philippine Consulate General about the patient. The second confirmed case of COVID-19 in the Chinese territory. The consulate immediately called and had a brief conversation with the patient to ascertain her condition. She is in good spirits and said she no longer has fever and that she is well taken care of, but hospital visits are not allowed given that she is in isolation, the TFA said. It added that the patient requested some personal items from the consulate and that her identity be kept a secret. According to the consulate, the first Filipino who tested positive of COVID-19 will be released within the week provided that her test results remain negative. A stark warning from the World Health Organization. Officials say now is the time to prepare for a potential pandemic. The novel coronavirus is now in at least 45 countries, with many implementing emergency plans and travel restrictions on the worst affected places. The World Health Organization, or WHO, reported that the number of new cases outside China exceeded the number of new cases in China for the first time. Take a look.
Now is the time to prepare. So we're in a phase of preparedness for a potential pandemic. That doesn't stop anyone doing what they need to do. We've had enough countries now import disease. It is time to prepare. It is time to do everything you would do in preparing for a pandemic. Pandemics of influenza can be sometimes called a lot earlier because we know we've had previous pandemics, and we know with influenza that when there's highly efficient community transmission, as we see with seasonal flu, that the disease does spread around the world, and it has proven that time and time again. So it's much easier to say a pandemic will occur in an influenza situation.
Every country must make its own risk assessment for its own context. WHO is also continuing to do its own risk assessment and is monitoring the evolution of the epidemic around the clock.
This is about good risk management. It's about good communication between states. It's about management and early detection of cases and their appropriate isolation and treatment. It's not about shutting borders. It's about coherent, coordinated public health action by a number of member states who share borders in order to effectively manage the public health consequences of any importation of COVID-19.
There have been more than 82,100 infections and 2,800 deaths worldwide. This according to the latest toll from Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. The number of deaths in China, where the virus was first detected, has declined, with 29 more deaths reported on Thursday. The lowest daily figure in almost a month, but the daily number of infections worldwide is higher than in China. More than 50 deaths have been reported outside mainland China since the start of the epidemic, out of more than 3,600 people infected, according to the Johns Hopkins Center. Cases of the virus have appeared in 9 new countries, such as Romania, Algeria, Austria, Croatia, Georgia, Greece, Norway, Pakistan, and Switzerland, bringing the number of countries hit to more than 45. South Korea has announced more than 1,590 infections, by far the largest outside China, and 12 deaths. Also, 20 members of South Korea's military have been infected, as well as a U.S. military service member stationed there, along with more than 1,200 civilians. The U.S. and South Korea's militaries postponed forthcoming joint exercises due to the outbreak. The number of infections in Italy, the hardest hit country in Europe, hits the 400 mark late on Wednesday with 12 deaths. Iran announces a total of 26 deaths, including the country's deputy health minister. In other news, Malaysia's parliament will vote Monday on the country's next prime minister in a bid to end a political crisis. But if no candidate has enough support, there will be a snap election, Mahathir Mohamad said. It was the latest twist in a drama triggered when Mahathir quit as the premier and the government collapsed following a failed attempt to form a new ruling coalition without his designated successor, Anwar Ibrahim. Anwar and Mahathir are now locked in a power struggle, reviving a rivalry that has loomed over politics in the Southeast Asian nation for 2 decades. The pair had reconciled and joined forces before polls in 2018 to oust a corruption-plagued government that had ruled the country for 6 decades. The king appoints the prime minister and had interviewed the country's MPs to work out who they backed. But Mahathir, who has appointed interim leader following his resignation, said no candidate with enough support emerged. A candidate must have the backing of at least 112 MPs to become premier. The king says that the right forum will be parliament, said Mahathir on Thursday, following a morning meeting with the monarch. He added the legislature would sit on Monday to determine who has sufficient backing to become premier. However, if the parliament fails to find a person with a majority, then they will have to go for a snap election.
So Dewan Rakyat will be called on the 2nd of next month in order to determine who gets the majority support in the Dewan Rakyat to become the next Prime Minister. If the Dewan Rakyat fails to find a person with the majority, then we will have to go for a snap election. And for 2 days is that. The result is that he cannot find anybody with a distinct majority. And because he doesn't get a distinct majority, he says that the right forum would be the Parliament, Dewan Rakyat.
Mengumumkan ketibaan Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri Dr. Mahathir.
In the Philippines, Malacanang on Thursday dismissed as a mere banter the latest pronouncement of President Rodrigo Duterte that the Philippines could either be a territory of the United States or a province of China. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo justified Duterte's remarks, saying the latter merely floated the possibility in case the Philippines fails to fight its own battles.
That was a general statement. Kung baga kantsaw yun sa sarili nating bansa. Kung di natin kaya huwag na tayong magkaroon ng gobyerno. Yun ang ibig niya sabihin.
On Wednesday, Duterte said the Philippines could choose between becoming a U.S. territory or China's province if it could not become self-reliant. Duterte issued a statement as he recounted asking the armed forces of the Philippines whether the Philippines could survive without the U.S. following the abrogation of the Visiting Forces Agreement, or the VFA. Panelo said the president's latest remarks should be taken lightly because he would not allow the Philippines to be dependent on other countries like the U.S. and China.
China.
Ano lang niya yung sinasabi niya, kung hindi natin kaya maging gobyerno, di magpa-colonize na lang tayo, yun ang ibig niya sabihin.
The president earlier ordered the termination of VFA, a 1998 military pact between Manila and Washington, D.C., as he believed that it only benefits the U.S. and puts the Philippines at a disadvantage. The VFA is deemed revoked 180 days after the U.S. government on February 11th received a formal notice of the termination from the Philippines. Since he assumed office in 2016, the president has kept a distance from the U.S., the Philippines' longtime ally. Duterte has instead sought amended ties with China, despite Manila's long-standing disputes with Beijing over the South China Sea.
When visiting the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. That you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Welcome back. Asian and European markets fell again on Thursday as coronavirus infections surged outside China, with more new countries reporting cases and analysts warning of more pain ahead for investors. Investors are growing increasingly fearful about the economic impacts, with several big-name companies including Apple, Microsoft, and drinks giant Daigou expecting sales to be hit. The virus continues to spread around the world, with Brazil reporting Latin America's first case and Greece, Georgia, Norway, and Pakistan following suit. Around 45 countries have now been affected, and the global death toll now stands about 2,800, with more than 80,000 infected. Equity markets in Europe and the U.S. ended Wednesday on a mixed note, having been hammered the previous 2 days, mainly supported by bargain buying. But Asia continued to fall, with Tokyo ending down to 2.1%. Sydney fell to 0.8% and Singapore dipped at 0.3%, while Taipei, Wellington, and Jakarta were also well down. Seoul was down to 1.1% after authorities in South Korea said a total of 1,595 had been diagnosed with COVID-19 in the country, the highest outside China. London opened down 1.8%, while Paris and Frankfurt each lost 2%. However, Shanghai closed up 0.1% as the virus appeared to be easing in China. While there were signs people were returning to the streets in some affected areas, and Hong Kong reversed earlier losses to end up 0.3%, while bargain hunting also helped Manila and Bangkok. Meanwhile, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno remains optimistic of a 6% economic growth this year, despite the impact of the coronavirus disease 2019 or the COVID-19. In a briefing Thursday, Diokno said the country remains less affected by the epidemic, despite the rise of cases in more countries. He said that most of the things that they plan to do are not heavily affected by the coronavirus, like the Build program. Diokno said if he is still the Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management or the DBM, he will propose for a supplemental budget for further boost state spending. Diokno said the government should focus more on the implementation of its infrastructure program and educating its youth, among others, since these are among the drivers of growth. The government targets an expansion of between 6.5 to 7.5% this year. Economic managers are firm on pushing for more reforms to ensure the recovery of the domestic economy. The country's gross domestic product or the GDP accelerated by 5.9% in 2019. below the government's 6 to 6.5% target due to the impact of the delay in the approval of last year's national budget. In other news, the first digital archive of the valuable historical cultural heritage of ASEAN member states, or AMS, was launched. The ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, or the ACHTA website, showcases over 160 digitized heritage items from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. The website allows visitors to have an in-depth look into the collections of museums, galleries, and libraries through the three-dimensional 3D models, images, audio recordings, and valuable videos of cultural heritage of the three countries participating in the project's first phase. In his opening remarks, Deputy Secretary General of the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, Kung Afoa, stated that the ACHTA project is an important step in ASEAN's pursuit towards enhancing the public's understanding and appreciation of the rich and diverse cultural heritage of the region. The LA Galigo script, an epic written in the 14th century, is one of the digitized documents from Indonesia. The script was inscribed in the UNESCO Memory of the World Registry in 2011. The website also gives a glimpse of a Mak Yong performance from Malaysia, a traditional dramatic dance, cum a ritual also performed in some parts of the ASEAN region. Meanwhile, Thailand presents a collection of gilded manuscript cabinets in 3D, which viewers can look at the intricately crafted stories involving mythical creatures in greater detail. The project is supported by the government of Japan through the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund. Japan Ambassador to ASEAN Akira Shiba further mentioned that anyone can access many cultural heritage easily and instantly through this ACHTA website anytime and anywhere. The ACHTA website also features a wide and rich collection of palm leaf manuscripts, modern and contemporary art, stone inscriptions, sculptures, and statues, weapons, and golden jewels. The first phase of the project began in 2018 and the second phase, scheduled to start in mid-2020, will digitize collections from Cambodia, Lao PDR, Myanmar, and Vietnam. All AMS will be covered by the project in succeeding years.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. Spectators and teams at the Thailand MotoGP will face a rigorous health screening and be given hand sanitizers and face masks to keep the event coronavirus-free, the organizers said on Thursday. The March 20 to 22 event in Buriram is going ahead despite fears over the deadly virus, which have decimated Thailand's tourist numbers during the peak season. Thermal screening will be used at the racetrack's entrances. Hotels will look out for anyone showing symptoms. And a Buriram Healthy app will provide up-to-date health information. Formula One's Chinese Grand Prix is among the long list of events postponed over the virus. But the inaugural F1 race in Vietnam on April 5 is going ahead. The owner of the Chang International Circuit racetrack said they are 100% ready. And he is confident that with all of these measures, everyone who visits Buriram will be safe. Anutin said there will be no cancellation or postponement, vowing to personally oversee health safety standards. It's a global event that has generated 3 billion baht, $94 million each of the last 2 years. Thailand has reported 40 cases of coronavirus, but there are fears other cases may have gone undetected. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Judith Yamera, and I'm 1 with 25.